This is Scott Bach-Hansen, and today I am going to talk about the position of trail. And one of the things we want to focus on in trail and positioning is we always want to make sure we get good angles. But there are some other basics that I want us to pay attention to before I get into some of these clips. First of all, we want to make sure we referee on our front foot. Refereeing on our front foot keeps us engaged in making sure that we're there for rebounding plays or plays to the basket. We're not bailing out because we're worried about getting beat down the court. I say this, and it's not necessarily meant to be that we stand on one foot or we lean forward. It's just more of a concept than it is an actual movement. The other thing is we want to be a little bit more sideline oriented, and this is a new term that's come out in the last few years from the NBA as well as NCAA. Being more sideline oriented gives us an opportunity to have better angles at the basket. It also keeps us out of the play and out of harm's way. And a lot of times what ends up happening is officials that haven't been to camp for a long time or haven't received any training are just kind of doing what they've always done. And so I'm going to show you some clips today of trail position, and we're going to focus a lot on it, is the sideline oriented. We're also going to talk about the differences in rotating and how to cover certain plays while you're rotating. We'll also talk about transition, hustle, and awareness. And one of the last things we'll hit on is communication, because that's an important piece to everything. So in this clip here, you're going to see our trail official is about as wide as he's going to get in most of the videos here. Is not necessarily we want you to be outside of this volleyball line, this volleyball court line, okay, which is where he is now. Now, if he has a closely guarded count that ends up going over towards the sideline and he's to come out on the court, that's acceptable. The other thing is if we have a three-point shot down here in the corner, this outside the arc, and we need to be out here to be able to look down to see between players, absolutely acceptable. But what you're going to see in this, as I go ahead and play this, is he ends up start coming over. Now, what ends up happening here is we have player here, and he's looking kind of through here. He's not even looking at the matchup that would be here. What we really want him to do is be sideline oriented. We want him to be here. And the reason for that is if there's a quick steal, he's in the way now. And there's no way he's going to be able to referee the play. So there's nothing that's going to happen in this play that's going to impact him. But I want you to just keep this in mind as we go through the next clip. You see how close he is. Now he kind of realizes I better back up a little bit. And as we rotate, he's not in unison with our lead. Our lead is already over to the second lane line, and he's just now starting. Also, his eyes are here, which are okay because we have pressure on the ball. The lead here, Alex, is probably looking through, but it's okay for him to have eyes here, but we also want to make sure he has eyes here as he rotates to pick up that screen of white number 2. In this play here, you'll see how when he gets a little too narrow and inside the volleyball lines again, as you can see where he is right now, he is going to be putting himself in harm's way here. And what ends up happening is he ends up backpedaling, which is a no-no, never backpedal. And then he backpedals wide so he can get out of the way first, and then he starts running, which ends up putting him behind the 8 ball. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us are 40s, 50s, and 60s, and these kids are 16. And by the way, they stay 16, roughly every year. So we need to really be ready to referee. And if we were wide, we could just turn and run. We might have had a better chance at handling this transition play. You can see his first step is backpedaling, and he's got to get wide and get out of the way. You're going to notice that this player here is going to have an outlet pass, and as the pass goes, by the time the player catches it, we're already 2 or 3 steps behind. We're not going to catch this kid. Okay, as much as we can try, we're not going to catch him. And then what ends up happening is he's got to look where he's looking at a straight line situation, and there's really no way for him to be able to truthfully be able to say, I definitely saw a foul here. Now, we can take experience, we can take intuition, and sometimes we can get lucky and we can call a foul. Uh, was it a held ball? Was it a foul? Who knows? We have a center over here that probably could have helped us, and maybe we rely on their judgment to help us on this play. But what ends up happening is we guess. Whether we guess right or not, who knows? Based on reaction of players, maybe he got it right. But I think the lesson here is more about if you're wide, we don't necessarily have to worry about backpedaling and getting wide to get out of the play. Again, I'm just going to run this clip pretty quickly. You'll see again, he loves coming up the middle of the court, and he'll come over towards the center. And now what ends up happening is we end up having two eyes on the ball before that pass goes, which we don't need. We're also going to see that we're almost in the way of the play, and we have a late rotation here. So you can see where the lead is already at the lane line, and our trail realizes, oh, I better get over. And then what ends up happening is he almost runs into the player here. All right, this will be a good example of staying wide. So in this play, Alex is our C, and he ends up staying wide. As the lead comes over, he's now trail, but he stays here because he's got good coverage, and he's able to go ahead and get this play. So if I back this up and I start going slow-mo, you can see that he's got a good sight line to the basket from here. There's no reason for him to back out. He wants to stay engaged in the play. And Alex is one of the few that's fast enough to be able to get down to the court. So as we see the play, he gets the arm hit right here and is able to make the call. Again, anything above the shoulders, we want our trail to be aggressive. And so what we see here is Alex comes up with the foul, and he gets some help from the bench. It was very thankful for their help. But that play is something that we don't do a good enough job as trail officials to be able to stay engaged in our angles and our matchups. All right, here is the opposite effect of what happens. Now our trail is rotating out, and he ends up leaving his angle on a play to the basket where if he stayed where he was, he'd have a better angle, number one. Number two, as he's backing out and he hits the whistle, it doesn't look great. I mean, from a visual perspective, it looks like we're going away from the play. Remember, we want to be on our front foot going towards the play. We don't want to be backpedaling. And I get that we're rotating here, but he's rotating himself right out of a good angle. The other thing, the last thing on this is just from a judgment perspective. Remember, varsity kids can play through some contact. Maybe if we hold our whistle just a little bit longer, we might be able to stay away from having a quick whistle on this, as you'll see. All right, so the ball goes through the basket. I would say that based on whatever happened before the game may help dictate whether a whistle is warranted here or not. But again, varsity kids can play through a little bit more contact. It was more of a body bump. Did not displace the shooter. The ball was already out of his hand. We probably could have let this one go. But the thing of us, while we're backing out and hitting a whistle, doesn't look good. This is exceptional trail coverage from Joel. Joel here in trail, and you can see where he ends up getting to. He's inside the top of the key. Now, he's a little bit more pronounced with his front foot officiating, which is fine. Again, if you're fundamentally sound and you're paying attention to what you're doing, and you're focused on your positioning, sometimes that will end up being the case. What that does is it keeps him engaged. It keeps him involved. He's not bailing out. He's not worried about getting beat down the court. And as you can see, he stays with the play the whole time and doesn't necessarily need to worry about backing out. He's still in the play. He's able to keep an eye on the 21 there in the middle. So excellent trail positioning by Joel on this one. This is another play, and we end up having a rotation here, but what ends up happening is Joel goes wide. And the reason why he's going wide is he's paying attention to this matchup here, but he's also to get big picture officiating and be able to help 23 screening over here. And so as the play ends up developing, he can keep an eye on 23 going over. And now as we end up starting to have a rotation, he's already in concert with the lead. So as Irv rotates over, Joel takes 2 steps down, and he's in a much better place. The other thing I want to pay attention to here is notice how Marvin is taking steps back, but he's not bailing out. Okay, he's just taking steps back to be in a better position. This is another great example, and again, I want to give Joel kudos for his positioning, and very fundamentally sound positioning here. As you'll see, the ball comes over to his side, the lead, Irv is moving over, and Joel ends up staying right where he's at. He's got a great angle here on the ball. He's got an active matchup that he needs to stay engaged in. There's no big picture officiating here. He just stays right where he needs to stay. Marvin is coming down to center, so it's okay for us to have 2 centers at this time. And then as the ball gets handed off and there's not enough pressure, you'll see Joel start backing out into his normal trail position. There's not an active matchup. Right now there's no closely guarded count ready to happen. He's paying attention to the screen. He's able to get the big picture officiating here, which really helps. There's not an active matchup for Marvin, so he's also paying attention to this matchup as well. An excellent job by this crew on their rotations. And it's really good. Now the bad thing here is we have 2 counts, so we got to remember that the trail has to the second lane line over. Marvin actually started his count first, so Joel probably should have seen this. But otherwise, just the coverage itself and the way that they're rotating, and especially from the trail position, is fantastic. Trail and transition. I want to pay attention to what Joel does here. There's 2 things. Number one, the hustle's fantastic. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to single out Joel as the best official in the world here, but he does have really strong positioning. So as we go through this, you're going to see as he runs up, he runs all the way to his position. Now a lot of officials can stop here and go, oh, he's going to make the basket. Those guys will get the foul, whatever. No, he stays with the play. He stays engaged. He stays front foot officiating, and he's able to see that there's a follow-up. And look where he is. He's inside the top of the key again. He's got a great angle. He's able to see this play. He can help Marvin and lead in the right position. So an excellent job by Joel in trail and hustling and getting the position. This next clip that I'm going to show you is, we're on a smaller court here, but Henry in trail does a really good job of, see how he's stepping in as the shot goes up. So what that does is it helps him with his front foot forward. He's able to referee this backside, okay, and he's able to really pay attention to staying in the play. A lot of times we end up bailing out when a shot goes up, so an excellent job by Henry in the trail here. We can't talk about hustle enough, okay, so we see our trail here. Zach, who's probably almost free throw line extended, but he's definitely below the top of the key. Now we're on a shorter court here, but a lot of officials end up doing the home run trot when they run the lead, and I want to give Zach kudos for hustle here, because you'll see what ends up happening is we have a couple of dribbles and a quick outlet that ends up going out of bounds, and look where Zach is. He's already there in position. There's no necessary challenges for him to be in a bad place because he got down the court and was able to put himself in the right position. This play here is we have a foul on the throw-in that the center calls. Now, I'll give a little bit of background on this play. This is after a made basket. They're coming back from a timeout, which is why Adam's hand is up, and so that means that the thrower in A1 has the right to run the end line here. So having the right to run the end line, the trail is cognizant of the fact that as Henry calls this foul, the first thing he's trying to figure out is the throw-in end. And we have a push on the foul by Henry, and as he reports, you'll notice that Adam starts walking over to get confirmation from him. Hey, are you okay with him still running the end line, the throw-in end? Okay, so they get the knowledge. Adam goes over, we put the ball on this side, but now he tells him, hey, you still have the right to run the end line. Okay, so it's good communication by the crew and an excellent job. On this play here, I think what ends up happening is our trail over here just misreads the play and starts bailing out. So remember, you want to stay active in the play and make sure we don't miss up on that. This last one here is a play where our trail, is getting the angle now. And this is me here. I'll point myself out as doing something not correctly here. You'll see me stepping out wide, okay? And as the shot goes up, now I'm stepping to get an angle here, but I might have been in a better spot if I was actually down here by the coach and get the strike zone. But as this rebound comes off, I want you to watch. White comes up and he's trying to tap the ball in, and he gets bumped. And Patrick, our lead, rightfully so, has a foul on the push. But what he does here is he points that he's going to have the ball out of bounds. Okay, so seeing this, I make eye contact with the center, Dave, and saying, I've got him shooting too. Do you? And he's also, you'll see him put his hand up as well. And so he puts his hand up, 2 shots. I'm going, okay, I got 2 shots too. And then as Patrick walks by, I stop him. This is the key point. We got to make sure that we stop him before he ends up reporting. So I'm telling him right here, there's a tap. Now, it's a loud gym. You can see that the environment's pretty packed. And I end up having to get closer to him and saying, we have a tap on the foul try. He should be shooting. Patrick takes the information, changes his call, 2 shots. It's a really good job of communicating. I'm not just trying to pat myself on the back, but we as officials need to do a better job of doing this, of communicating before we get to the reporting area. So that's it on the trail position, and next I'll show you the center position, but hopefully this will help you.